The new solid state home button on the iPhone 7 has changed, but the good news is that despite initial criticism, Apple nailed it with the iPhone 7 home button. While it does have a few downsides, the change has produced several new positive side effects as well, and we'll explore those right now. The home button won't wear out. The Touch ID home button introduced with the iPhone 5S quelled much of the hardware issues with the home button, but anytime there's a moving part, it's going to elevate the risk of potential failure. The new home button on the iPhone 7 has no moving parts. You can now customize click sensitivity. The old home button's click occurred because you were physically moving the button upon pressing it. If you didn't enjoy the way the click felt, then you just had to live with it. But with the iPhone 7, this is no longer the case. That's because when you go through iOS's initial setup on the iPhone 7, you're going to encounter a new setup screen for the home button. It's here where you can choose between 3 click sensitivity levels. And even after setup, you can go back into Settings, General, Home button to alter click sensitivity. Less ingress points. We can debate about Apple's motivation to alter the home button on the iPhone 7. Was it because it wanted to improve water resistance? Was it due to the way customers in Asia abstained from using the mechanical home buttons on products past? Is Apple conditioning us for a radical new iPhone redesign for its 10th anniversary iPhone 8? It's possible that all 3 conjectures may be true, but one thing we do know for sure, however, is that the iPhone 7 claims to be water resistant, a very first for an iPhone. So it goes without saying that eliminating a physical home button with ingress points is going to go a long way towards shoring up the device against taking on water. It feels good. One of the reasons that I love my MacBook's Force Touch trackpad is because every click feels the same no matter where you click on the trackpad surface. Because it's no longer relying on mechanical parts, it can sense the same amount of pressure from anywhere on the trackpad. Now, when it comes to a surface area as small as the iPhone 7's home button, such factors don't come into play nearly as much. Yet, there is more consistency when it comes to home button presses. The home button on the iPhone 7 feels more responsive than the old mechanical home button, as long as you ensure that you make skin contact with it. Now let's consider some potential negatives, and we kind of alluded to the first one on the list, skin contact being required. Because the new solid state home button requires skin contact to register presses, this makes interacting with the new home button through non-capacitive gloves or other barriers a non-starter. It also means that you can no longer click the home button with your fingernail, a practice that many of us, when we had soiled hands, have relied on in the past. Now, this is indeed an annoyance, but I don't think it's as annoying as it sounds on paper. It's why Apple has developed features like Hey Siri to control and interact with the iPhone without needing to touch it. It feels odd at first. After my initial hands-on with the iPhone 7, I caught myself nodding in agreement with early, mostly negative reports about the new home button. Initially, interacting with the new home button admittedly feels a little weird. It almost feels as if you're clicking the entire bottom lip of the iPhone instead of just the home button. This is something I heard repeatedly from individuals who went hands-on with the new device after the iPhone 7 keynote. To be honest, after more than a week, it still sort of feels that way, but that doesn't make it bad, just different. It'll take some getting used to for sure, but once you do get used to it, it becomes second nature. Other things to consider: force restarts and recovery mode changes. Because the new home button is now software controlled, the method used for force restarts and getting into recovery mode or DFU mode had to change. With older iPhones, pressing the home button plus sleep wake button would allow you to force restart, etc. But with the new iPhone 7, you'll need to utilize the volume down button instead of the home button to do so. Conclusion: yes, the home button has changed, and the change may feel a little odd at first, but after you get used to it, it's much better. Going back to the mechanical home button on my iPhone 6s now feels weird. I've simply come to the realization that the new home button isn't bad at all. It's just the way that a home button on an iPhone 7 is supposed to feel.